This is a meeting of the NGO and Government Roundtable on Embodied Carbon. And this is a gathering that began really just about exactly 4 years ago this week, I think, with an in-person meeting here in Seattle, and with representatives from, I think, a dozen different organizations in the building industry. And that was the start of a long and complex and wonderful conversation about a set of objectives. And so I'd just like to sum up what those objectives are so that we're all on the same page. Our objectives in these meetings are, first of all, to share news, strategic plans, resources, and tools related to embodied carbon. Secondly, to report planning and future dates for conferences, webinars, and meetings in our networks or hosted by our organizations. Thirdly, we want to inspire and facilitate ongoing communication and conversation among key leaders related to embodied carbon. And finally, we want to encourage convergence on shared embodied carbon terminology, data standards, benchmarks, and targets for embodied carbon reduction. And most of the time, these meetings are a series of reports, short reports from a number of organizations related to what they are doing, initiatives that they're leading, conferences that they're planning, reports that they're publishing, and so on. And this has proven to be a really valuable experience for all of us, I think. So this morning, we've got a little bit of a different agenda. We do have several reports from different organizations that have let me know they've got important things to talk about. But our first item on the agenda is actually a really interesting report from the Carbon Leadership Forum. And so I'd like to introduce, first of all, Kate Simonen, who's the founding director of the Carbon Leadership Forum, and then she'll be talking a little bit about the project and introducing another member of the CLF staff who's going to be leading this work. So Kate Simonen, please take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everybody. Really nice to be here. Andrew, could you enable screen sharing?
Yes, I've just done that for you.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to make sure everybody's paying attention to two items that are in our newsletter. So the first one that I want to talk about and really highlight is the EPA grant program that is just come out. It's due in the new year and has up to 40 grants between 250 and 10 million for developing new environmental product declarations. But additionally, a robust public background data, strong product category rules, tools, and resources to streamline and minimize the cost of EPD development and create platforms to share EPD data. As you dive in there, it includes more than just that. So I think we're wanting to highlight that pretty much any organization in this network has the potential to lead or contribute to one of these grants. And really encourage people to take a look at the potential of these. Two things I want to highlight from this is, again, reminding the advancing the LCA data ecosystem, which in some ways we think of as a roadmap for supporting this grant. So if you're considering applying for the grant, really encourage you to look at this report and see where you fit in the ecosystem and be able to articulate your role. And also, I'd really encourage you to think about others in this network who might be also looking to contribute to that, solving the same problem that you're interested in solving, and really encourage you to at least reach out to those individual organizations and try and see, are you both applying? Are you trying to do the same thing? If you're trying to do the same thing, can you collaborate together on it? Or if you're doing actually something different, but that it might sound similar, make sure to make a clarity about what's different about them. So this is a really monumental grant proposal. Key thing is that you need to be registered in, I'm forgetting what it's called, the federal government system, SAM system, which takes over a month to apply for and get approved for. So if you're even thinking about it, please register on the SAM system. And if you want to, we're in the process of evaluating the grant opportunity right now. And So you may hear from us more with specifics. We're not sure whether or not we as an organization will be applying, but we're still, we're working to figure that out. So that's, just don't want to miss that. And we'll put those links in the chat. And then I also want to highlight that at the CLF, we're really pleased to be taking over the organization and maybe hosting and coordination of a project, the Embodied Carbon Harmonization and Optimization Project. This was publicly announced a couple of weeks ago, right around Green Build. We've now been able to make a place on our website to host information about this project. Is that this is not a new standards writing body, but this is a group of organizations that either issue challenges, convene their members to respond to those challenges through commitment programs, or create the data structure for embodied carbon challenges. And so we're working to amplify standards that are, or actions that are being taken by each of these organizations into ECHO, back and forth. So hopefully that gets us towards harmonization and optimization of our efforts. I'm going to hand it over to Michelle Lambert, who just joined the CLF about 3 weeks ago now, I think, who is taking over the coordination of this project.
Great, thank you, Kate. And nice to meet everyone. I'm really excited to be a part of CLF and collaborate with all of you on this work and other projects. So as Kate mentioned, CLF just took over the helm of facilitating this group from Architecture 2030, who had been doing it for the last about 9 months. And so this webpage is sort of a landing page to get information, to direct people to who have questions. And then, Kate, if you scroll down to the bottom on the right, there's a button there to sign up. So people that have questions and want more information can sign up there to get on the mailing list to get future updates about the work. The schedule at this point, we are having our next all group meeting next week, where we're going to essentially talk through the next steps for the end of this year, and then into early next year, trying to understand, where all the priorities are within the group and what the next, and hope to publish some public courses at the beginning of 2024. And anyone who signs up for that news about ECHO will receive that information as soon as it's made public. Yeah, I think that's everything, unless there are questions.
So I know that there are several other people who have been whose organizations have been part of the ECHO collaboration. And I just wanted to call out their names and ask if any of them wanted to comment on the work that their organization and they will be doing in support of it. I think we should have Kara Kokernak from ULI on the line, also Katie Poss from Building Transparency, Katie Riddle from the American Society of Landscape Architects, Lauren Alger from Infrastructure 2050 and the SE 2050 commitment, and then Luke Luong, who works for SOM but is part of the MEP 2040 initiative. Melissa Morency has been a longtime member of the NGO Roundtable on Embodied Carbon, and she's representing the American Institute of Architects. And then, of course, Stacy Smedley from Building Transparency also has been a significant leader in these conversations. If any of you'd like to say a word about your organization and the work that you'll be doing, I'd love to welcome you.
I'd be happy to share a few words about the
That would be great, Katie.
common reporting schema. Okay, sure. I've got a slide deck I could share.
Oh, let me make you a co-host to the meeting so you can do that. All right. And I can also see Lauren and Luke Leung and a few others on the line right now as well. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, so Building Transparency has been leading the development of a common reporting schema for carbon results and whole building LCA results. Essentially, we collected all the individual schemas that the various commitments and certifications who are involved in ECHO have been using to collect and report carbon results. We evaluated those, we combined them into this master spreadsheet, and we conducted about 7 work groups to go through how each organization has been collecting this data. We have reached the point where we've developed a first draft of the schema, currently reviewing that with our development team, and we hope to have that published maybe for some public comment review in early 2024. But we're very excited about what this will help to enable, including assuring consistent and comparable project level embodied carbon data. And hopefully this could be put to use by policies as well. So if you have any questions about the schema, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to chat with you about what it looks like and how you might be able to use it as well. Thank you, Andrew.
Great, thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Kate. And Lauren, would you like to say something about the organizations that you're representing or the initiatives that you're representing? It's good to see your face here.
Good to see you too, Andrew. Well, everyone, Katie, Kate, Michelle, great to meet you. So excited that you're with CLF now. So I work alongside SE 2050 a lot because their focus is embodied carbon within structural systems. But the gap was that all other infrastructure systems, we don't know how to establish the baselines for bridges, tunnels, roadways, runways, airports, ports. So we also just don't have the data in the industry. A number of case studies need to happen. So we've been working in smaller focus groups. We have a bridges group that's making significant progress in understanding how we would classify different asset types, what considerations need to be thought of. And then we're also making progress with our tunnels group. They're going to be piloting data collection. We're evaluating different carbon tools. There are some tools that focus more on bridges, less on things like tunnels. So we're meeting with LCA teams or carbon calculating teams and working to understand how they derived their calculations. So we're making progress there. We're hoping to start getting some case studies published next year, I would say, trying to publish best practices at some point. And then we're also working with a number of educational groups. So working with students at Columbia University right now to lead some research efforts in that realm. So lots of things happening at once, but we're really excited.
Great, thanks a lot, Lauren. And actually, Luke, I'd like to call on you as well to talk a little bit about this initiative from the perspective of MVP 2040. Luke and I have both been members of the steering committee for MVP 2040 over the last 2 years. And it's been a really great education for me. And I've really appreciated Luke's leadership in helping that initiative get off the ground. So this is kind of a significant step forward for MVP 2040 as well, isn't it, Luke?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As you know, the EPDs for MEP information is slightly behind. So we've been trying to work with, as you know, with a couple national labs to try to come up with some PCRs for EPD development in North America. So more to come about that. Now, currently in the schema, the B modules are a little bit maybe the kind of the next step focus, but we've been start working on, for example, the life cycle of the building, which is very important for the B4 replacement cycle. And we develop tools and way to start setting the stage for the B1 reporting of the refrigerant. So all those stuff are coming to work together with the schema to this holistic ABC modules in the future.
Great. Well, at least for a short time this morning, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions or comments from anybody else who's on the call. If you'd like to do that, please just, if you don't mind, just clicking that little button that that raises your hand. And if you can't find the button, just start talking and we'll let you in. So if there aren't any other comments or questions, I'll just, oh, wait a minute, David, why don't you go right ahead?
Good morning, everyone. I'm representing the Center for the Built Environment today. My colleague, who many of you know, Matt Roberts, has another conflicting call, but he will also be tracking this funding opportunity, and he's also doing work currently on MEP. And I don't know, Luke, if he's been in contact with you, but it certainly seems like there's some synergies. So I'll make sure that he's aware of the topics of discussion today regarding MEP. And he's got a draft of a paper, and then we'll be continuing on that work. So I just wanted to check in with you all about that work.
Yeah, I think, Dave, great to see you, by the way. Online,
good to see
anyway.
You too. Thank you.
So yeah, we met for those people who were in Chicago for the AIA Large Firm Roundtable earlier this I don't even know, maybe a month or two ago. So we met him and we have a great discussion, and you know, the CBE meeting, some of us will be there too.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. And I also see that Cecilia Wendiga has her hand up. And Cecilia, I want to welcome, I think this is the very first time that you've attended the NGO Roundtable. Cecilia is from Kenya and is representing the Center for Science and Technology Innovations. So we're just delighted to have you. Go ahead, Cecilia.
Hi, thank you, Andrew. Greetings, everybody. And it's about 6:23 p.m. here. We are at the State Department of Public Works. We just finished the meeting with the climate unit, and we have members of our team who are responsible for doing all either the finance side or the data gathering, especially Enoch is our lead chemist, and he's breathing a sigh of relief as we got the instructions on detecting asbestos and looking at a structural climate collapse relating to, and how is he supposed to do all these embodied carbon emissions and looking. And so I was like, we're not very different from anybody else. Everybody's struggling to figure it out. So he's now breathing a sigh of relief as he's seeing you all report, like, we have to figure this out. He's now feeling better. So thank you.
Welcome. Yes, we are all figuring it out. And so happy to have you.
And I think what we've really learned is we figure it out together. We don't figure it out in isolation. So I'm just delighted to see all of our friends from Kenya in the room. It's really wonderful to see your faces. Any other questions specifically about ECHO? All right, so it's time to move on with the rest of our agenda then, but don't anybody leave yet, because we have a very special moment coming up right this minute. We're going to ask everybody to please turn on your camera so we can take a great screenshot of all of those amazing faces in different parts of the world. And there you all are. Oh my goodness. And Victor, I see you're right in the middle of the Rocky Mountains somewhere.
Yep, somebody has to do it.
And we've got a few more people who are still turning on their cameras. And of course, you know, for this shot, see if you can get your face more or less centered in the shot on your camera so that we can get a really nicely configured shot. I'm really interested in the art of this experience here. All right, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, smile, and everybody's going to say something or do something. So, or maybe I won't even say smile. So, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Embodied carbon. great. This is one of the best photographs I've ever taken in my life, and I didn't even have to click a button to do it. All right, so we're going to move on with the rest of our agenda now, and I just want to start out actually with James. James Kitchen raised his hand a minute ago and said that he had a report that he'd like to deliver. So let's start out with James, and I know that you're from you have been from the Mass Design Group, and are you representing them this morning, or are you talking about a different topic?
Hi. Yeah, I'm representing Mass. I guess I don't have necessarily an update too much, but I think that the hearing from Infrastructure 2050 reminded me of the recent RICS update for their second edition of the whole life carbon assessment guidance. I think the first one, or their first technical note, which was just on embodied carbon, came out about 15 years ago, and it was like that was my learning about it, like that's where I started, and it was like hugely influential in me getting into this place. And I think and then they updated the embodied carbon to whole life carbon, and now the whole life carbon of buildings now includes infrastructure. So I think that what they're doing there is like incredibly interesting, and I think that the fact it's being led by cost consultants and quantity surveyors is like fantastic, because they already have material quantities at hand. All you need to do is like add another variable to it. So it's like it's really interesting to see how they're embedding the reporting into that workflow that already exists. So I think that's like maybe something that we can encourage within our own sort of project. Within our own projects as well.
Great, thank you so much, James. And then another, this may be actually, we've just got a few reports this morning, so this is a little bit unusual, but one of the most important ones I think is going to be from Cecilia Bondiga from the Center for Science and Technology Innovations. And Cecilia, I'm going to let you share your screen, and then please just go ahead and take over the mic.
Thank you, Andrew. And here. And hopefully it's legend to put it in presentation mode, only because I've been eating bandwidth all day. And last time we tried to do that, it sort of froze the computer and took a lot of time. So we've been around since that should say 1998, sorry. We are a UNESCO associated center, registered as a trust here in Nairobi, Kenya. And we're a development think tank. And really, we are a bunch of chemists. We know most of these climate and environmental atmospheric issues from the chemistry perspective. We were encouraged to look at how we could support industry, and we are focusing on the built environment as the point of intervention, because especially if you're looking at public works, it's not just the buildings, like you were talking about, the roads, the bridges, the tunnels, the water systems, everything. And looking at this issue of climate risk also in terms of disaster risk resilience. I've lived in California. Those fires are not funny anymore. And the other part of the country now is facing floods, and we don't have, thank God, here in Kenya, we haven't faced all these fire issues, but we are frequently now experiencing building deterioration due to droughts. And also a lot of issues pertaining to flooding. So we're looking at this, I'm sorry, as it updates. What we're trying to do is now think about how do we, and this is a work in progress slide, so sorry if it's rather messy and not presentation ready. We're looking at how do we connect? So for us, looking at emissions, greenhouse gases, if you use the toxicity approach, too much carbon, if you look at dose makes a poison, too much carbon in the environment is a poison to the atmosphere. So we started connecting the dots across all of these things that create toxicity is how we started coming at it. And not only looking at the, for example, sulfur hexafluoride, SF6, potent greenhouse gas, not necessarily always calculated when people are looking at embodied emissions, but it's all in the building switchgear and needing to reduce those things. And then now starting to think about PFAs are in everything. US is trying to phase them out. They get into the water, but then we're switching to new energy systems, clean energy systems. The lithium has toxins. The hydrogen that is the saving grace of the future is full of PFAs. And so what we're trying to do is then how do we connect all of these issues at the human scale, at the biodiversity scale? We know dragonflies, because during their nymph phase, spend 4 to 7 years underwater. If that water is polluted, that dragonfly is going to mutate faster than the rest of us. And so we're looking at them to help us understand what is going on to the ecology and how is that affecting, if we start seeing species collapse, how does this affect pollinator species, food, nutrients, security, and all those. And then there's tools. We're starting to go towards a lot of these platform-based tools. Restore, spelled without the E, is an online platform. It's free. You are able to now start mapping out, it doesn't matter if it's urban or rural, and it tells you what biodiversity is supposed to be there and how much carbon is you can capture based on how much, like if you have a lot of surface material, then you don't have the ability to do a lot of soil carbon and things like that. It helps us do look at degraded lands and invasive species and all of that. And we hats off to the MAS team in Rwanda. We know you're doing a lot of great work in terms of unfired bricks and setting performance engineering standards for using clay and unfired bricks. And my team here is asking, how do they do that? So we definitely would like to connect and talk to you more about that. Thank you.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Cecilia. It's really heartwarming and exciting to hear all of the news from the middle of Africa, one of the most important continents in the world. Obviously, is all of the stuff that's happening in Africa. There's a lot of amazing innovation that's taking place. Next person on our agenda, I think Irene Dominguez is here from Bologna. And Irene, I'm going to let you share your screen if you'd like, and then you can just take it away.
Great. I am not going to share my screen. I'll try to be brief, but thank you, Andrew. For all of you who don't know me, I'm Irene, and I work at Bologna Europa. We are a non-profit organization based in Brussels, and we work in industrial decarbonization and climate policy at the European Union level. So to share a bit of our embodied carbon-related work, we are working really hard on raising the profile of embodied carbon in the EU because it's been not the focus as much as it has been in the US, for example. So we really started working in zero-emission construction sites, but then moved on to focus more on the embodied carbon in products and building and construction sector. Right now, we're doing a lot of work on green product procurement as a tool to create lead markets for low carbon materials. Concretely in cement and steel, but also other more innovative materials. And I thought I would share with you a little bit of an update on the situation in Europe, because I thought you might find it interesting. There are right now 3 very relevant regulations being negotiated. The most notable one is the Energy Performance for Rebuilding Directive, which contains whole life carbon provisions. They prioritize renovations over new builds. And there are a lot of organizations right now trying to make sure that the provisions are solid and that they have both separate targets for embodied carbon and operational carbon. Right now, also, the European Commission is working to develop whole life carbon roadmap. They're analyzing now the results of a public consultation they launched, and we're likely to see this in the beginning of 2024. And from Bologna's side, we are right now launching a communications campaign to publish a foundational report that aims to bring clarity about the embodied carbon situation in Europe. And we have a heavy focus on cement and steel and their decarbonization pathways, but also what's the relevant context for Europe, the policy that's in place, the different tools. And we, of course, have a special mention to CLF because it has been a great resource so far. And we want to also make it available and known to Europe. So I don't know if you have any questions, but happy to answer.
Yeah, any questions for Irene before we move on? Just raise your hand or just start speaking and you can go ahead. Kate, go ahead.
Hi, Irene. I was curious, you talked about the total life carbon roadmap. Could you talk a little bit about who's doing the work and contributing to it, and then what's the timeline for that to be published?
So right now, it's the commission, I think, had entrusted this to Ramble Consulting, and they are going to be the ones that develop this roadmap. And everyone was able to contribute to the consultation. It was public. And I am not sure exactly what is the final publication time, but I'm sure that right now they're analyzing the results. And last I heard, it's going to be published in the beginning of 2024.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Irene before we move on? All right, the next person I've got on the list is Alex Kroka, or Kroka. I may be mispronouncing your name, Alex, but go right ahead from the United States Energy Association. And I see
Thanks,
that you're from Seattle, or at least you've got Seattle in the background.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Alex Krauka I'm a Seattle-based consultant for the U.S. Energy Association. USEA has a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, where we work to build both a domestic and international consensus on the needs of and requirements for various carbon management technologies. So CCUS, carbon dioxide removal, methane emissions mitigation, sustainable domestic development of rare earths, critical minerals, and the like. And one of the programs that we're working with DOE on is what they're calling the Utilization Procurement Grants Program. This is a grant program for state and local governments, as well as public agencies and utilities, to procure materials that utilize carbon oxides in their manufacture. So building materials being the most obvious example. Program has about $100 million for use over the next 4 years or so, with grants ranging from $50,000 to $500,000. They do require a cost share, and just wanted to make sure that the group was aware of that. Subcontractors are allowed. So even if you are not a state or local government or public agency, there is potential for you to receive funds through working with one of those entities. I should note that for a product to be purchased with one of these grants, the company or the manufacturer will need to submit an LCA to the National Energy Technology Laboratory, proving that the carbon oxides used in that manufacturing process are less than what would be in an incumbent technology. So that information needs to be submitted to NETL before moving forward with these procurement grants. And one other note is the grants are not competitive. They're kind of on a first come, first served basis. So just wanted to make the group aware of that and appreciate you letting me join.
Great, thanks a lot, Alex. And I just want to remind everybody before I move on, I should ask, does anybody have a question? And I see, Kate, you do.
Alex, could you put a link to that in the chat? So, and
yeah.
I'll have to say, I'd like a little bit of help interpreting what you said. So this is money for state agencies to purchase materials that are using carbon oxides. And so does that go into concrete? I wish I knew the answer. I'm supposed to be the expert, but what does carbon oxide do into building materials?
It certainly can go into concrete. I think there are certain manufacturing processes where if you inject CO2 during that manufacturing process, it'll help lower the embodied carbon within the material. I think there are certain technologies they claim to strengthen those materials.
So this is like carbon cure, just to put a name on it. Putting carbon in. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So and you're funding state governments to purchase those materials.
State and local governments, public agencies, and public utilities.
Okay.
Those are the eligible entities, and then sub-awardees are also allowed.
Awesome, thank you.
Program.
I think one of the really interesting things about all of the funding that's coming through is it takes a little bit of expertise to interpret them and to figure out who to apply for them. So I'm really grateful for you to help explain it to this group. And I just want to encourage everybody, when they're learning about these grants, you may find some that don't make any sense to you, but if it makes any sense for anybody you know, so somebody who works at a state agency or a company that makes these types of materials, make sure and ping them and try and make the connections to people. I think it's really incumbent on our network to help ensure these funds are used appropriately to have the desired outcome, which is to decarbonize industry and construction, as I understand it.
Most definitely. And construction is I think most relevant to this group, but it's not limited to construction materials. It can also be used for fuels. It could be used for animal feed, variety of different uses. And I've included two links in the chat, one for the NETL website that is kind of a overview of the program as well as the actual funding opportunity itself. And then I've included my email in case anyone would like to reach out with questions, and happy to help find answers to any questions you may have and put you in touch with DOE or NETL.
Great, thank you so much, Alex. That was great to hear. And I'd like to make one other request. If you have not yet put your name and your organization in the chat window, please do that before we leave. And a final question: are there any other folks on the call here who'd like to give a short report on what your organization is doing related to embodied carbon? If so, just go ahead and raise your hand or start talking, and we'll go with you. Mara, please go right ahead from RMI.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm still traveling to work right now, so I have not been able to be on video. But I work at RMI. I work on a project called the Advanced Building Construction Collaborative. We work closely with the Department of Energy and their Advanced Building Construction Initiative. And we're working on advancing construction methods with a focus on industrialized construction and prefabricated methods, but also trying to ensure that that's situated to decarbonize, including focusing on low embodied carbon materials. We host an embodied carbon working group, and we're planning for a session in November, on November 8th, focusing on resources for cities and states who are looking to implement policies to help reduce embodied carbon emissions. That out there, if anyone is interested in joining, I can put my email in the chat, and please feel free to reach out. We'd love to have any of you join that session.
Great. Thank you so much, Mara. And I'm actually going to call on somebody who has not raised their hand, David Lehrer from the Center for the Built Environment. I think you're at the University of California. And I think this may be the first time that you've been on one of these calls. Would you please introduce yourself and say something a little bit more about the center and the work of the center? And I know that you've had a couple of really significant things to announce literally in the last week or so.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm David Lehrer at the Center for the Built Environment. And one of the noteworthy things about our group is we do have an industry consortium, and it includes people like Luke of SOM. We have close to 50 different companies now. There are a lot of design professionals, architects, engineers, builders. We also have many manufacturers, some property owners, and together they collaborate with us and provide funding to support our work. And we now have a researcher who I mentioned, Matt Roberts, who is recently joined our group. He completed his PhD studies in the UK, focusing on life cycle assessment, and he is been very active in pursuing. He's got about a half dozen different projects. He's been working with the folks at CLF and collaborating quite closely with them. And he attended Greenbuild. He and I both attended Greenbuild, and he's really expanding his network. And also at the large building Roundtable that Luke mentioned. So he's got quite a lot of different both research activities and connections with others. That's great to see. So that's I guess that's in a nutshell, an overview of CBE and sort of the specific areas that we're working on related to embodied and operational carbon.
Great. Thanks so much, David. Really appreciate that update. And I get a little bit, when I see CBE as an acronym, I get a little bit confused every time, because the CLF is hosted by the College of Built Environments at the University of Washington, not the center.
Yes, there are many CBEs out there, and there's even 2 of them at Berkeley now, apparently. So
my goodness.
Yeah, there's a chemistry group that has that acronym too. So we are the CBE at Berkeley, Center for the Built Environment. And in many cases, for example, on LinkedIn, we're just spelling it out. And I've just connected with the number of people on the call through LinkedIn. So
yeah, fantastic.
Expand our network.
Well, welcome to the Roundtable. We're delighted to have you. And actually, the last person I'd like to call on this morning is someone that I've gotten to know recently. We at CLF have gotten to know recently as a partner of Cecilia Wandiga in Kenya. Nixon Otieno is on the line. And Nixon, would you mind just saying hello and saying a little bit about Nico Green, your organization, as well?
Hi, thanks everyone. Glad to join with you on the call. Together with Cecilia, we are basically working on a CLF Kenya hub. My firm is Nico Green, sustainability think tank. So we do a lot of research and training and policy work. Our work has revolved around developing guides for the government, and currently specifically on pushing the embodied carbon agenda. We are currently working on developing EPDs. We are supporting the first Kenyan company to develop an EPD for construction materials. We are also soon beginning some work on life cycle assessment. And also we are exploring reduction of waste, construction waste. We have built a reuse platform to basically connect construction waste, with social infrastructure projects that we have quite a series of pilots that we want to roll out to actually explore the possibility of use of reclaimed materials and low carbon storing bio-based materials. So that is just a bit of what we are doing. Very glad to join with you and to learn from the colleagues doing amazing work in this platform. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Nixon. I find all of these stories, all of these reports to be really inspiring and exciting, and not the least the work that you all are doing in Kenya and in Central Africa. So with that, I'm going to close out the meeting now. And before I close it out, I want to make sure everybody knows that within the next 24 hours, we'll be sending out an email with a link to the chat and a report and a video recording of the call. The recording will appear on the Carbon Leadership Forum's online community. The URL is community.carbonleadershipforum.org. And you'll find it on this page, and then a link to it so that you can see the video and see all of the folks who were at the meeting as well. So thank you very much for being here this morning, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.